In 1993, in a corner booth of a Denny's diner in Silicon Valley, three young engineers sat sipping cheap coffee and sketching out a distant future, creating specialized chips to process 3D graphics for video games. It was an almost crazy idea at a time when personal computers were struggling just to smoothly display basic 2D interfaces. More than 30 years later, the company born from that diner has not only transformed the gaming industry but has become the pumping heart of the entire global digital economy. From a valuation of less than $1 billion when it went public in 1999, it created an unprecedented financial earthquake in history by reaching a market capitalization of $5.04 trillion in late 2025. This figure is larger than the GDP of the entire economies of Germany or Japan, officially leaving behind monuments like Apple and Microsoft. But where is the paradox? They don't sell smartphones, they haven't created a billion-user social network, and most of the world has never directly touched a standalone product bearing their name. So, how did a company specializing in making toys for gamers become the most powerful pick-and-shovel seller in the artificial intelligence gold rush? Is this absolute dominance a stroke of strategic genius, or merely the derivative of a massive impending tech bubble? Welcome to our business case study, Decoding the Nvidia Era. To understand Nvidia's monopoly today, we have to look at the global tech landscape in 2026. The world hasn't stopped at pure text generation chatbots like the early days of ChatGPT. We are moving deep into the era of Agentic AI, artificial intelligence systems capable of autonomous logical reasoning, planning, interacting with other software, and executing complex chains of tasks on behalf of humans. And to operate this Agentic AI network, the world needs a colossal source of parallel computing power far beyond what traditional CPUs can provide. Realizing this before the rest of the world, Nvidia, under the leadership of CEO Jensen Huang, made a brilliant positioning shift. They no longer call themselves a semiconductor company. They now define themselves as providers of AI factories, heavy industrial plants that manufacture artificial intelligence. Imagine this. If the massive data of humanity is crude oil and large language AI models are the oil refineries, then Nvidia is the only organization on the planet holding the blueprints, the specialized machinery, and the core technology to run that entire refining process smoothly. Every tech giant, from Google, Meta, and Tesla to Microsoft and Amazon, even as they try to kill each other on the software front behind the scenes, they all have to patiently wait in line to pay a massive Nvidia tax just to scramble for every newly shipped GPU server system. The new rule of Silicon Valley has been established. Whoever holds the most Nvidia computing servers controls the future of their company. This $5 trillion empire wasn't built overnight. It is the result of 3 decades of unwavering commitment to a single gamble: parallel computing. In 1999, Nvidia launched the GeForce 256 and officially coined the term GPU, Graphics Processing Unit. Instead of processing sequentially like Intel's CPU, they broke down massive graphical workloads into thousands of small tasks running simultaneously in parallel. By 2006, Jensen Huang decided to unlock this power for the academic world. The CUDA platform was born, allowing anyone to use NVIDIA GPUs to simulate quantum physics, forecast weather, and run complex mathematical algorithms. The explosion came in 2012 at the ImageNet image recognition competition. The AlexNet neural network, running on just 2 NVIDIA GPUs, crushed all traditional algorithms. The global research community had a brutal awakening. GPUs were born for AI, and from 2022 to the present, navigating through the explosion of ChatGPT, trained on tens of thousands of A100 chips, to the launch of the Hopper architecture and the Ultra architecture Blackwell, NVIDIA rose to become the undisputed standard of global data centers. Looking back at 2006, the decision to invest in CUDA was a gamble that threatened the company's very survival. Wall Street mocked NVIDIA for years, dragging its stock sideways because they spent billions of dollars to create free software and integrated complex compute cores into gaming chips, inflating production costs without generating clear revenue. However, Jensen Huang saw a future no one else did. He patiently waited for the CUDA seed to take deep root in universities and research institutes worldwide, so that when AI truly exploded, the world realized that every core AI algorithm was already written in NVIDIA's CUDA language. But absolute power always comes with extreme risk. Historically, NVIDIA's growth hasn't been a straight line. They have tasted bitter defeat multiple times when their stock evaporated due to the boom and bust cycles of the cryptocurrency mining market. Entering the 2020s, the problem is no longer crypto, but the direct threat from their biggest customers. Hyperscalers like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft are not at all comfortable when their company's lifeblood depends on a single hardware supplier. They started pouring tens of billions of dollars into developing their own in-house application-specific integrated circuits, or ASICs, like Google's TPU or AWS's Trainium, to escape the cost burden. Another massive physical barrier began to emerge: energy. Deploying tens of thousands of super AI chips in a data center consumes as much electricity as a small city. Despite Nvidia achieving 100% renewable energy use for its internal offices, the indirect Scope 3 emissions from customers using their chips are exploding. The world is running out of power grids to feed the AI brain. In addition, global geopolitical fragmentation has caused their core business in several major markets to completely freeze due to technology export bans from the US government. With all those risks and immense competitive pressures, why haven't AMD, Intel, or the big tech companies been able to overthrow Nvidia's throne? Analyzing the root causes, we find three impenetrable defensive moats. First, the software ecosystem moat. Hardware is only the necessary condition. Software is the sufficient one. Over the past 20 years, Nvidia has forced the entire academic world and AI developers to become completely fluent in the CUDA platform. Every large language model, every AI optimization library in the world is deeply tuned to Nvidia hardware. If a company wants to switch to buying AMD chips to save costs, they face a disaster, having to rewrite millions of lines of code and optimize from scratch. Software engineering costs are tens of times higher than the cost of buying chips. Nvidia has created the iOS of the AI world, and everyone is locked into this ecosystem. Second, the mindset of selling systems instead of chips. Nvidia realized that when you link 100,000 chips together, the chip is not the bottleneck, the network bandwidth is. The $6.9 billion acquisition of networking company Mellanox in 2019 was a masterstroke. By mastering the ultra-high-speed InfiniBand networking technology, Nvidia doesn't just sell GPUs, they sell a fully assembled supercomputer at a massive rack scale. Third, the ability to accelerate Moore's law. While traditional CPUs are stagnating in performance, Nvidia's new architectures continuously break boundaries. From Hopper to Blackwell Ultra, Nvidia confidently claims a 50-fold performance improvement and a 35-fold reduction in operating costs for the Agentic AI era. They run so fast that their competitors' research cycles become obsolete before the products even hit the shelves. Those absolute monopolistic advantages have translated into a money-printing machine unprecedented in the history of physical hardware manufacturing. Looking at the fiscal year 2026 financial report, the numbers speak for themselves. Nvidia recorded full-year revenue of $215.9 billion, a 65.5% growth compared to the previous year. Of this, the data center division brought in a staggering $193.7 billion, accounting for over 90% of total revenue. Their net income hit $120 billion, officially making Nvidia one of the only 4 American tech companies in history to generate over $100 billion in annual profit. More terrifyingly, they maintain a gross profit margin of over 71%. In the hardware manufacturing industry, where every piece of metal has a cost, achieving the gross margin of a software company shows Nvidia's absolute pricing power over its customers. The tech giants may complain, but they have no choice but to pay whatever price Jensen Huang demands. However, can this party last forever? According to analysts, there are 2 scenarios that need careful consideration. First is the shift from the training phase to inference. Companies spend billions buying Nvidia equipment to teach the AI to get smarter. But once the AI is smart enough, it enters the inference phase, answering questions and executing tasks for the end user. The inference phase does not require such ridiculously expensive and bulky hardware. This is where Google's homegrown ASICs or cheaper chips from competitors could seize market share, eroding Nvidia's profit margins at the lower tier of the market. Second, the capital expenditure cycle is hitting bottlenecks in physical infrastructure construction. The speed of obtaining building permits for data centers, cooling energy, and power grid supply. These bottlenecks could stall the deployment of data centers in the near future, putting the brakes on the company's storm-like growth momentum. Throughout industrial revolutions, the biggest winners were usually not the gold diggers, but the ones selling the picks and shovels. In the 21st century, Nvidia has created the most complex silicon picks and shovels ever to exist on Earth, attached to an unbreakable software ecosystem. They are shaping the future of digital biology, autonomous transportation, and the cognitive capabilities of machines. The figure of $4.7 trillion or $5 trillion in market cap might overwhelm us financially today. But if the era of agentic AI is truly just taking its first toddler steps, have we really touched Nvidia's ceiling yet? The answer won't be found on Wall Street's ticker boards, but inside the millions of computing chips silently blinking, connecting, and thinking in the data centers out there. Thank you for watching this business case study. If you found this perspective useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Goodbye, and see you next time.